Welcome to another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. On this week's program, tariffs have been a hot topic of conversation, the parameters changing almost on a daily basis. Barrie Mayor Alex Nuttall chimes in on the impact they could have on the city as well as the outcome of the provincial election. A lot of mortgages coming due, mortgages that were secured 4 or 5 years ago when rates were quite low. They aren't anymore, but there may not be any need to panic. We meet a couple of young men who have found their way thanks to the dedicated staff at Youth Haven in Barrie. Cope Service Dogs, which provides highly skilled service dog partners to people with disabilities, could use a helping hand. Barrie Colts are getting closer to the playoffs, and there will be some frigid fingers and tingling toes this weekend at Friday Harbor. Lots to talk about after this. Tariff talk, there's been lots of that. Everyone's standing back, taking stock, trying to figure out what the impact will be from a business and personal standpoint. We had already invited Barrie Mayor Alex Nuttall in to discuss the provincial election and the spin-offs for the city from that. He gets to both in conversation with Barrie 360's Ian MacLennan.
Welcome, Mayor Nuttall. Let's first talk about the election result. The day Doug Ford announced that we were going to the polls, the PCs put out a statement from you that you had endorsed Doug Ford, not the only Ontario mayor to do it. I believe maybe Oshawa, Niagara Falls, Windsor. Why was there some people asked, why the quick endorsement? Why wouldn't you wait to hear what the other party leaders were, proposing or campaigning on?
Well, my take is if it's not broken, then don't fix it. We have a team that works in Barrie very closely together. We have the MPP Doug Downey in North Barrie, of the MPP in South Barrie, Andrea Kanjan. Both of them are in cabinet. Both of them have a lot of influence around the table at the province. Have a great relationship with Premier Ford, and it's delivered for the city of Barrie. I mean, yourself, we've delivered over $100 million in funding from the province of Ontario to the city of Barrie in the last 12 months. That's more than we probably delivered in the previous 20 years. Why? Because we have people that are working together for the benefit of the population here in the city of Barrie. And you look through those projects, right? Money for housing, money for a university. We have money for sewers to be able to connect Huronia Road right across Mackay to Southwest Barrie, bringing on 500 acres of new industrial land in the city of Barrie. We have money for the expansion of Mapleview Drive in Southeast Barrie, where we know congestion is getting worse and worse as the houses are built and the businesses are put in. And so I look around and I go, okay, we're getting more than our fair share. We're getting our lion's share right now. And I want that to continue. And I think if you look at the global events that are happening right now, we had the opportunity to talk before we came on air about this a little bit. What's happening south of the border? Who do we want protecting Ontario's manufacturing jobs? And my answer to that is very simple. I want Doug Ford to be the premier going forward on this subject. I think he's somebody who's been stern, he's been strong, he's been capable, he's been Captain Canada. And I think that to change that at this point would be a detriment to our province and would not help us going forward.
So the Liberals or NDP couldn't present themselves in Washington like Doug Ford?
I think that when I'm looking at those who were on the premier's ballot, if you will, well, there isn't one of those, that Doug Ford is the person who's going to get the most play in Washington, D.C. He's going to get the most play in Fox News and CNN. He's the person who has been there already for the past 6 years and put very competent arguments together as to why the U.S. should stop trying to bully the Canadian people and Canadian manufacturing jobs. And he's been very effective on that front. And I think that everybody in Ontario would agree. In fact, the opposition leaders basically said the same. They said, no, we want to be part of Team Ontario and Team Canada's approach. We want to work with Doug Ford on this. Well, the reason they're saying that is because he's doing a good job on it, right? And, there's a couple of issues that I think were the most pressing issues of the day. This is one of them. And the other one we talk about lots is the homelessness and addictions and that file and the effect it's having on the ground here in the city of Barrie. And the reality reality is everything I've asked for as mayor of the city of Barrie to be able to help those who are hurting, get the heart hub in place, provide the shelter spaces needed, get the encampments removed, get people into inpatient and outpatient care, help them find a better future. Like, that's all being funded by the Ford government. Right. And so as I was contemplating what was happening when the election call came down, to me, it was a no-brainer.
And we talk about there are issues of healthcare affordability. I don't know if it's not broken. Some would say things are broken. If we've got 7,000 people using the food bank in the city of Barrie monthly, et cetera, et cetera. So what do you want Doug Ford to do better for the city of Barrie?
Well, look, I think the number one project that we've got to put on the agenda, it's not a city project. It's actually the RVH. We've had a city that's grown immensely. In fact, in the last 2.5 years since I became mayor, this city's gone from 146,000 to 166,000. That's in 2.5 years. When you think about that type of growth and the effect it has on the ancillary services, not just the roads and the sewers and the water, but on the hospitals, on the wait times in emergency rooms, on the beds that are available with the RVH. There's obviously going to need to be an expansion taking place. The RVH is putting that vision forward. And, it would be my expectation that we get that project moving and going forward, working with the province, working with our MPPs, and ensuring that the city of Barrie and the greater Barrie area, because it's not just a city of Barrie health center and hospital, but that the greater Barrie area have the health care that we require. And I think that will go a long way in terms of an issue that we need to look to going forward. But if you look at it from the perspective of what are the most pressing issues, healthcare is probably one of the top three. Jobs and the economy and the tariffs, which I think is all now intertwined into one issue, that is also one of the top three. And homelessness and security and addictions, when you put those into the same bucket, if you will, that's the other one. And so
there's a lot of interconnection too.
There is absolutely, especially when you look at healthcare and homelessness and addictions. And for so long, we treated homelessness and addictions like it was a thing that was not healthcare. It is healthcare, right? And we need to treat it as such. And there also is that point where if you don't have the jobs, you don't have a strong economy that can support individuals so that they can grow and have hope and have opportunity to do better in life. We know what the effects of losing hope looks like. And so there is a lot of interconnectivity there. And the one that we need to do better in this region is the expansion of the RVH and the family doc system.
You're wearing a hat that says Canada is not for sale, a ball cap. The tariff threat, there was a study that came out, a report came out, cities like Sault Ste. Marie, Windsor, I believe Sarnia is in there, that could be really hard hit by whatever Donald Trump decides to do. You're on the ground in Barrie. What are businesses telling you, and how might Barrie be impacted in terms of moving companies that want to go ahead and expand, or companies that want to come here? Could this impact Barrie proper?
Look, we need stability. Right. And what President Trump is doing is creating an unstable environment to invest, not just in Canada, right, but in North America.
Would it be better to say we've heard March 4th or April 2nd. Is the uncertainty even worse than what could be the outcome?
It could be, right, because we don't know what the final decision is. No offense, but his kind of approach to this changes daily. And so we don't know what the final is. What if he came back and said, I'm putting 100% tariff on? We haven't heard that. I'm just saying it's not out of the realm of possible where he goes on this. So I don't know that the instability or uncertainty is worse than what the final product will be. But I think there's a strategy there that's focusing directly on creating that uncertainty for investment. And what investment needs in terms of, let's say, manufacturing, is there to be a stable environment to invest. They're not looking to make all of their money back in 1 year. They know we need to invest a certain amount. We need to hire a certain amount of people. We need to create jobs, and then we'll receive that return on investment. But if it's not a stable place to do it, they're not going to, make those initial investments.
And without identifying any businesses per se, but have you talked to some that are like, either they're going to make the investment south of the border, or they've got potential going north, that things are on hold or with the uncertainty.
Yeah, I think there is some of that already. We're seeing some things on hold. We're not seeing cancellations yet. The other piece I would say is, Honda is a big piece of our region, right? It's not in Barrie, but there are a lot of spin-off jobs that come supplying Honda with parts or expertise. And so, those are the places in Barrie where I think that we're going to be susceptible to some negative economic forces, and we've got to make sure that we're finding every way to protect those jobs, protect those people's livelihoods, and move forward together. But and I know we're maybe going a little long, but I'd like to continue this conversation if it's okay, because we as a country, as a province, we can make changes. And one of the benefits of being a country of 40 million people is that we can be more agile than some of the other countries, larger countries around the world. Trade with the United Kingdom, trade with the European Union needs to be a focus. They are like-minded democracies. They have major needs for natural resources at this point. There is a region there that is in war right now. And they're getting supplied by Russia, who is the invader in an illegal war. Like, they're looking for materials to be supplied by a country with like-minded values and ethics. And we are that country. But we failed to create the capacity to do it. We failed to create the opportunity to get our goods across the ocean. And the other piece, I think, internally in Canada, one of the roles I had when I was on the federal level was economic development in Southern Ontario. My final shadow minister role was in internal trade. And so we need the provinces, Are you talking
the trade barriers?
Yeah.
Between provinces.
Exactly. Why is it easier for BC wine to go to the U.S. than to come into Ontario? We need to answer that question.
And that is a question that has been asked now. That now they're looking at going, no matter what politics or what level of government or who's in power, why are we looking at it now? What was it just because we had the U.S. and it wasn't a priority?
Well, I think it was easy, right? The U.S. was easy. They were essentially our only client. You think about oil and some forms of natural gas and our hard minerals. It was just easy to send it south, right? But what we did as a country when we made the decision to cancel Energy East, to stop any LNG going across the ocean, is we made it so we only had that one client, and therefore the U.S. controls that trade relationship, and we're seeing what happens today when we don't have diversification.
What do you think the outcome is going to be? Do you think we talk about relying too much on the United States? Did we just always assume it was going to be the same? Nothing would change? I mean, did we not learn anything from the first Trump term?
Yeah, I think that we thought as a country that we made it past it. And I think that we thought that we made it past the first Trump term because President Trump signed the agreement for how free trade was going to continue in North America.
Deal,
Exactly. And he said it was a great deal. And he signed it. Well, here we are just in, 5 years or 6 years later, whatever it is at this point. And he's saying it's a terrible deal, right? So when you're dealing with that type of up and down and unstable approach to the jobs of literally hundreds of millions of Americans and tens of millions of Canadians, it creates a very difficult situation. But we need to take note today, over the last number of months, as a country, as a province, as a city, right? And we need to make sure that we don't put ourselves in the position where the only place we're looking is south. If this happens 10 years from now and we haven't diversified and we haven't focused on the European Union, the UK,
Asia,
absolutely, parts of Asia that are very easy to trade with, Australia, New Zealand, if we haven't made the changes, structural change in our economy in 10 years, then shame on us.
tariffs to mortgages. A lot of people who took out mortgages at ridiculously low rates 4 or 5 years ago are coming up for renewal and are worried about the higher rates they're going to pay, worried about whether they'll be able to keep their homes. We have Barrie mortgage broker Della Dwyer on the line. Della, what's going on and how are you able to help these people?
So I did some research. In Ontario, there's 11,000 mortgage holders that missed a payment in 2024. That's going to increase for 2025 for sure.
What happens when that happens? Do they kind of forgive you for the first one, but if it happens again, you're in trouble?
I think what you got to do is you got to reach out to your mortgage holder and you got to see what they can do for you. There are different things they can do for you before you become a complete NSFer, I'll call it. I also did some number crunching because I want to do a little bit of homework before we talk. So the average mortgage in Canada is around, or I'll say Ontario, is around $434,000.
Okay.
So if a person bought pre-pandemic, so around 2020, if they bought and their rate was 2.5%, and they did a mortgage with your typical 25-year amortization, the payment would be about $1,944. Mortgage comes up for renewal at the end of 5 years. New mortgage rate is now 4.44 for 3 years, say. Mm-hmm. Your balance is going to be around $367. You can actually request to take your mortgage back to a 25-year amortization.
Really?
And then you're allowed to do that. You can take your mortgage, if you're approved under a 25-year amortization, you can go back to your original amortization, thereby giving yourself some cash flow relief. So the new 25-year amortization would be $2,041. So the difference is $97 in a payment.
Which isn't too bad.
No, that's not too bad at all. You're not going to pay as much principal off, but because you had a 5-year term at, say, the 2.5%, you were paying a lot off of your principal before. That's why your mortgage balance is a lot less at the end of the 5-year term. So at the end of the day, this is one strategy you can use to make it a little bit more easier on your cash flow.
What if somebody didn't do all that? So they got in at around 2% 5 years ago, and now they're coming up at 4.5%. How much of a difference does that make without trying to make a deal with the mortgage lender? How much more are they going to be paying?
They are going to be paying about $468 more.
Right.
And I'm doing this based on that average mortgage amount of $434. So they're going to pay from $1,944. They're going to bump up to $2,411. So one of the other strategies that you can look at doing is 6 months out from your renewal, take a look at that higher payment and see if you can make it for 6 months. Make some adjustments to your budget according to that and see if you'll make it. And if you can't make it, then you got to go on to another plan.
So the big strategy, it would seem to me, is get ahead of this right away, as you mentioned just now. Take a look at things 6 months out, but also before you fudge on one payment, maybe talk to your lender and say, look, I'm in a bit of a bind this month. What is this going to be? What kind of a problem is this going to be for me?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's better to reach out to them first versus them reaching out to you after it's already said and done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm getting the impression from you that there might be some leniency on the part of lenders in a lot of different ways because they understand what's going on.
Absolutely. And if a person was a first-time home buyer or somebody who put less than 20% down when they purchased 5 years ago, that means that it's an insured mortgage, whether it's Canada Guarantee, Sagan, or CMHC. So there's 3 insurers in Canada, one being the federally regulated one and 2 being the private. But all 3 of them have got programs set up in place that should somebody have some issues with regards to payments, they can assist through the bank, the mortgage companies, whoever it is that they're using, as long as it's an insured mortgage.
It's good to know there's some wiggle room. There are options. You just have to be open and honest and go in and start talking ahead of time, not wait till the last minute.
Yeah, absolutely. The other problem is that when people bought 5 years ago, the interest rates were lower, but the cost of houses were substantially higher. And there has been a downswing. I did some research. There's been a downswing of about 20% equity of a house. 23%. Toronto and London have reduced values, and now they're looking at, if you bought pre-construction, a lot of times people used to buy pre-construction and then they'd sell before the property was finished. They're losing hand over fist right now in the Toronto area. But that's another thing to talk about another time. Another thing that you can do, if you've got your mortgage renewal coming up and you're strapped financially, a lot of the times you're going to look at doing, say, a 3-year term because it's a lower interest rate, but maybe look at doing a 4-year term mortgage, because then the U.S. election will have been over. Let
me put you on the spot and ask what you think is going to happen with interest rates in the short term in Canada.
50-50 chance that Bank of Canada is just going to leave things as is right now. There's even talk that they may start increasing interest rates.
That's not good.
No. I don't think they should. I don't think they'll just put a whole fallout. But there was an article in the Globe and Mail that there's a 50-50 chance that come March 12th, Canada's just going to remain, not do any more decreases. They want to see what Trump does, and then they'll make some decisions after that.
Yeah, we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place at the moment, aren't we?
He shouldn't affect us, but he affects us so much it's not even funny.
Yeah. Okay, so bottom line is don't dilly-dally. Don't wait around until your mortgage actually comes due. Get on the ball and start thinking about things now.
There's so many people that contact me with less than 30 days to their mortgage renewal. And you need to be at least 4 months. I would say if you could go 6 months, get a rate hold. And if the interest rates stay the same, the rate hold just expires.
And the good thing about doing that, too, is as opposed to 30 days, it gives somebody like you a little bit more time to work some magic for them, right?
Absolutely.
What if somebody comes in and they want to start shopping around? They've been with one lender and they're not making any headway. What are the ups and downs of shopping around?
It's better to shop around with a mortgage broker than it is go bank to bank, and you're going to have a hard time getting in at different appointments anyway, because the banks have a tendency to book out 3 weeks to a month. I would say it is beneficial to shop with a mortgage broker because they have at their hands at any given moment interest rates from, up to 50 lenders. And I'm not saying we use 50 lenders. We don't. But you've got the competitive lenders out there that are, at some point in time, they're going to have some rate specials. And you might want to take advantage of those rate specials, get that locked in, and then, have your rate guarantee for 3 to 4 months out. And if you do it as like a switch, so a mortgage has been renewed at a different place, there's no cost to you.
Okay.
So the mortgage broker gets paid by the lender, and they're doing the work to try and get you the best rate, and you're just renewing your mortgage elsewhere.
All right. All of that said, Della, how do people get a hold of you if they want to have a chat?
They can go onto the website, delladwyer.com. My email is delladwyer@invest.ca.
And how busy are you right now?
I am busy, believe it or not, but I am busy in a lot of it is the purchases because values of houses have come down. And so a lot of people are taking advantage of that lower priced house. And it's relative to before. When you had the higher priced houses with the lower interest rates, now you've got the lower priced houses with a slightly higher interest rate. So it's all relative.
So, best thing, get a hold of you, but get a hold of you 4 to 6 months out to help renegotiate a mortgage, because then they've got a lot of time for you to work your magic.
Yes, yes.
Della, thanks so much for the time today and the advice. Appreciate it.
Okay, Dan, anytime.
Gotta like it when a plan comes together. It has for 2 more young people who were at risk and found their way to the Youth Haven shelter in Barrie. Here again is our Ian MacLennan with 19-year-old Nathan and 17-year-old John, who were kind enough to share their stories with us.
I know there might be a lot of people that see adults on the street and drive by and would say, well, that's not good, but I see that. You tell them, I think a lot of people may not realize that there were youth who were also experiencing homelessness. And John, how did you end up at Youth Haven? What brought you to the front doors?
Well, originally I used to live with my grandmother, and it wasn't the most stable relationship we had. And it had gotten to the point where I had no choice, but I had to leave. And I don't have really any other biological family I could go to, so I was really on my own. And I had went to my vice principal, Jane Dewar, at Banting, and she helped me find Youth Haven. And, we set up a plan, and I came to Youth Haven, and it's been great.
And how old were you when you came to Youth Haven? Do you go to because I know Youth Haven is a transitional home, but also an emergency shelter. So where did your journey begin?
I started at the emergency shelter.
And how old were you?
16.
Going into an environment like that, where obviously you don't know anybody there, and there's social workers and what have you, how challenging was that for you?
Well, it was kind of challenging, especially since I was one of the only 16-year-olds in the entire program, or at least for the emergency side. So it was stressful because it's I'm around all these older people I don't know. I didn't trust them, and originally, I was supposed to leave. I got in there a day later than originally I was supposed to because I'd gotten scared and I ran again. But eventually, came back and got used to it.
And the programs and services that Youth Haven does provide to young people, how did you benefit from that?
Well, I also was seriously struggling with grief and mental health, depression, anxiety. It's not easy in this situation for me. And Youth Haven helped to guide me to, programs and services and, just be there for me when really no one else was.
And now you're in the transitional program at Morton House, another location in Barrie. And what's the difference there? What are you doing there that you weren't doing at the emergency shelter?
Well, we have more freedom. We have personal rooms where we can have, our privacy. We don't have to go out during the day, which currently we don't have to because the main place is being rebuilt, as talked about during coldest night of the year.
What else are you doing there that you might not have done at the emergency shelter in terms of program skill building?
More support, I'd say, for permanent housing, but more connection with the workers and the staff there. I know one of the staff members, his name is Bruce. He's awesome. I talk to him whenever, I really just need someone to talk to. If he's listening, hey, Bruce.
Right, and one of the things too, you're in school, and what grade are you in, and what are your short and long term goals?
Well, currently I'm in grade 12. I'm hoping to get my graduation this year, maybe next, depending on how my courses go. But I plan to go to college for engineering. I want to be an engineer.
And Nathan, when did you come to Youth Haven? How old were you? And what, if you're okay to talk about it, what brought you to the front doors, I guess, of the emergency shelter?
So my family was in a bit of a breakdown. Obviously with COVID, it didn't help, but I guess you could say I didn't have a proper relationship with my parents, leading me to end up homeless for a bit. It wasn't till maybe 4 or 5 months till I ended up at Youth Haven. I was going through other services through the York region based on
homeless.
Yeah, based on where I was in Simcoe.
How were you surviving?
I was surviving by having to figure out how to get 4 hours from one shelter to another until I ended up in Barrie, where Youth Haven finally took me in. And from there, it was easier to be able to work.
How old were you when you were dealing with that situation?
I was 17.
That's scary.
Oh, yeah. It definitely was, because it took me at least like 2 hours to get to the point where I could just take a bus that would take me directly to where I was working at the time. So I would wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning to do it, and I just kind of wished that I was at home at the time, a lot of the time.
Did you feel alone?
It definitely felt like there was nobody else there. Like, obviously my coworkers and that were understanding, but...
And when you came to Youth Haven, what were your expectations, or what were you hoping from the organization?
Well, when I went to Youth Haven, I was looking for just some support to get off the street. Like, I was there at least maybe 2-3 months already, as it was. Just got kicked out of the other place before I ended up at Youth Haven. I was referred by RVH because I had nowhere else to go. And going in there, I was hoping for a bit, but they definitely did help me with supports with mental health. Like, before coming in there, I didn't have a good voice, and I wasn't able to really talk with or communicate with people, leading to people think I was weird or whatever. But
you said off here that you found yourself, kind of, you could express of who you were.
Yeah.
And you're now in the transitional program, and so what did you have some short and long-term goals that you set with the staff, and where you want to end up?
So from when I started at Youth Haven, I'm no longer working at the place that I did prior to coming there, but my long-term goals of working within corrections, which was a big thing for me from when I was younger, has been a little bit of more of a long-term goal, with short-term goals being getting myself towards that point in time, and then building relationships with my mother and my father, who, while they both aren't necessarily able to work together, at least they can have the relationship with me.
And that's important, obviously.
That's important as a child of them. I understand they broke up prior to me, being young, prior to me actually remembering, but having both of them still together would be a good thing for me.
And, John, what would you say people want to, man, do you mean there's homeless youth in Barrie area, or homeless kids? What message might you send to people who, they might believe it, but hard to fathom that someone so young like you were homeless?
Well, it's terrifying being out on your own. I mean, I never thought I'd have to worry about, paying my bills or anything like that until I was old enough to have my own place, and now here I am. And if, you're like me and you're out on your own, just keep going, because, I'm where you are right now, and it's not easy, but, people care about you. And, if you have family, and you're not doing the best, it's recommended you try and work with them. Work and get help, if that makes sense. Because...
And you can reach out to Youth Haven anytime, whether you're on the street or not.
Yep, anytime you're on the street, you can reach out to Youth Haven. Their emergency program will be more than happy to take you in.
And
so
Nathan, what would you say about that, too? If someone said, well, homeless youth in Barrie?
Well, honestly, the for people who are on the street at our age, it is definitely hard. And like John said, if you can work with your family and it's a situation where it's just misunderstanding or whatever, definitely try to work with your family and try to get back there, because the streets aren't the best for...
And sometimes, I guess it's a case, sometimes we've heard that sometimes not being at home is actually safer than being at home, depending on a kid's situation.
Yeah,
right?
Depending on the situation. If you can't be home and there's absolutely no point, Youth Haven will absolutely take you. But if you can work with them and it's better, then it might be a little better to take that.
Okay. Well, thank you both for sharing your story.
Cope Service Dogs, which provides skilled service dog partners to people with disabilities, is looking for help with its student program, looking for drivers. Barb DeGagne, a volunteer coordinator with Cope, is with Barrie 360's Will Conkin.
We hear you're looking for volunteer drivers for one of your programs. Just kind of give us a little taste of what it is. What is this?
So, Cope Service Dogs, one of the things they do is we have a great program called Canines in the Classroom. And that is a program for high school students who are trained to train the dogs through their teachers. And it's a accredited program for them. They are matched with a dog at the beginning of the semester. And through the whole semester, during those 2 days a week, which is about an hour each, they train the dogs just on the basic commands. And it really, really gives them self-confidence and leadership skills and just a way to help cope through their daily lives. It's been very successful. We've been doing it since 2001. We've probably had over 1,000 students during that time, so really touched a lot of lives. I would also encourage your listeners to check out our website and see some of the testimonials from these students. It's really helped them actually stay in school, just navigate their daily lives, really. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for volunteer van drivers to take those dogs to the school during the school week, obviously, and picking the van up at our office, and through a Google map with a transit plan, they pick up the dogs in the Barrie area and then drop them off at the high school where the students and the teachers are waiting anxiously, and the dogs are really happy to be there. So it's really a win-win for both sides, and the students take the dogs inside. They go through their training program for about an hour, and then the driver will come back about an hour later, pick up the dogs, reverse the transit program to take the dogs home, and that's the end of their shift. So I'm going to say it's about a 4-hour investment of time, once a week or maybe once every couple of weeks, depending on their time. It doesn't need to be the same shift every week, but we have a great already core of dedicated and really passionate drivers. It's terrific to be involved in this.
And you said that you have about 10 drivers right now, and you're looking for 20. Is that correct?
Yes.
Maybe tell us about that.
Yeah. So the idea is to have enough drivers that should, like for instance, right now we have a few drivers that are actually away on vacation, which puts us in a position where it's just difficult to find to keep the drives going during the week. So it's always nice to have more than less. So the idea is to have that many drivers by the end of this year. That will also be able to provide us with some service to bring dogs into the office for what's called refinement training. This is the critical part of the training. Each dog that does become a service dog needs to have 150 hours of training. So, because not all the dogs that go in to Canines in the Classroom are actually being trained for service dogs, but some of them are. So that really narrows the amount of dogs that are picked up. So it's a shorter length of time commitment.
For the volunteers, do they need to live within the Barrie area? Because
most of them are, although we have someone coming as far away as Horseshoe Valley, Innisfil, sort of within. We like to have them within a 20 to 30 minute radius at the very most, so that it's not an onerous task for them just to get to our office to pick up the van, right? So that's kind of what we're aiming for, and then it's not such a great amount of time for the volunteer to give on any given day. So.
For the volunteer, they just need a license. What kind of qualifications do they need?
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. Minimum of 25 years of age will get them onto our insurance. A clean driver's license. They also must be willing to undergo, it's called a level 2 volunteer police check. Those 3 things are the main things. We do also like them to have some experience with dogs. It'd be great if they had some training experience or, currently live with a dog or 2. Also, our dogs are labs. They have a little bit of golden retriever in them as well, but that's the type of dogs we have. So they're a good size, and we also ask that they might have some experience or ability at least to lift up to about 30 pounds, just in case that one dog is trying to get onto the van and is having a little bit of issues. And they have to be able to maneuver a ramp that will get the dogs onto the van. So that's the requirements.
You said the program's been running for a long time, and you already kind of mentioned the importance of it, but why are these programs like these important?
I think they're critical for our students who are really our future, to help them get through school and become young adults and navigate through life in general. I've heard tear-inducing stories from some of these teenagers who were really at odds before they started this program, and were having issues maybe with bullying, or things were not going so great at home, or had other needs that weren't being met. And dogs just give everything. So when you have a dog in your arms, or just trying to train them, they just respond so well, and it really gives that student a lift to know that someone's on their side, and someone has their back, and that kind of thing. So I think it's a really great program for them. And again, they'll stay in school. Honestly, we've heard this because they love the dogs so much. So, and our drivers love dogs, and our drivers love students. They're good kids, and it's a very powerful program. So I think it's really worth supporting.
Not an offside question, but if you see a Cope service dog out in the public, they're working at the time, right? So
Yes.
Is it good to know not to go up to them, not to engage, or what?
Well, I would suggest approaching the person who has the dog and ask if they can pet them. And there's a protocol for that. And the individual will say, will ask the dog for their full attention, and then they will turn them to the person who's asking, make a friend. That's the standard line. And then you can pet them, and then away you go. And ask any questions you might have of that person. I'm sure they'd be willing to offer any stories or things like that. So I'm sure they would enjoy it.
For sure. Yeah. Do you feel like this just grows the program more, having them out in the public, people coming up and asking questions? Why do you have this dog? What is Cope service dogs?
Yeah, so it's good exposure for us, and just creates goodwill all around, because, of course, the other part of the program is having service dogs out in the community. And for those who are looking to enhance their lives and have something to sort of look forward to and give some support to our community in any way that you can, to either volunteer or support by donation, or just pass the word along. And if it's not something that you are able to do either of those things, maybe you might know somebody, a neighbor or a friend, or someone who's retired that is looking for some more meaning in their lives. That's what I've heard from people that I've interviewed. Is I've asked them, why are you volunteering? And they'll say, I'm really just looking for some more meaning to my life. I'm sick and tired of watching soap operas or going shopping or whatever us retired people do. So it just gives them something to look forward to.
Definitely. And you mentioned it before, but where can people find more information and how to volunteer? www.copedogs.org is our website. I encourage you to look it up and see what our programs are all about, what our students have to say. And if you are interested in volunteering, you can either volunteer online or you can email me directly at volunteer@copedogs.org. I would love to hear from you, and we can have a chat about what your interests are. We also are looking for foster families to look after dogs for a 1-year period and possibly a 2-year period while the dog is undergoing training. It is a commitment. I can also highlight a few things if anyone is interested in doing that. We have someone else that sort of is designated for that as well, but I can at least give a little bit of an idea. And we have events that are coming up also on our website. We've got a Fiddle Day event on May 17th that we have every year. And then, backed by popular demand, we're having our high tea again this year on June the 1st. So that's something to look forward to. And we could use some volunteers for that as well. So anyone who is interested in that certainly can get in touch with me and we can go through that. So, yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you very much for coming in today.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
And that website again is copedogs.org. Big event this weekend at Friday Harbor, a Polar Plunge in support of RVH. Rock 95 afternoon personality Macaulay is hosting the event. He'll also be plunging. He gets more information from Friday Harbor CEO Hani Rustam.
Are you jumping in the water too?
Of course I'll be jumping in the water. I'll be the first getting into the water.
Hey, it's appropriate. You'll be the first getting in the water. I will be the last because I'm hosting. I wait until the very end and then I jump in.
And that is fantastic, and I really appreciate you being there to help us really make the best out of that, of the event.
So we're like the bread in the Take the Plunge sandwich. Tell everyone who wants to be the meat. Tell them what this is all about.
Well, look, it's that time of the year, and it's Friday Harbor's Take the Plunge event returning on Saturday the 8th, where we're going to be inviting all the community members to brave the icy waters of Lake Simcoe, and as we spoke a little bit earlier, for a great and incredible cause, of course. As you know, this event, raises funds for RVH Foundation Keep Life Wild campaign. Of course, and it's, the Keep Life Wild campaign is in support of the expansion of RVH and the development of a new facility in our own backyard in Innisville. And of course, as community grows, these investments are critical, are very important, and hence, the vision and the objective of Take the Plunge to really support the Keep Life campaign and help raise funds as much as possible for our own community as well. Of course, in 2024, not sure if you're aware, but Take the Plunge, raised close to $17,500 in support of Keep Life Wild. But our goal this year is going to be higher. We're, rallying up the community and everyone who would like to really participate to really beat that goal and raise more funds for this cause.
And it's interesting that the Keep Life Wild is the slogan of their campaign, because a lot of people think jumping in the cold water is crazy, but you and I both can attest to you feel really good after. Can you back me up on this?
100%. I'm so excited already of the idea of jumping again, and getting into those icy waters is just an experience by itself. Getting out of it, and having that great feeling, not only that you have jumped in the water, but you've done it for a great cause as well.
Absolutely. You got a little science, given the dopamine dump and the serotonin that can last for hours, but mentally knowing you helped a great cause. And hey, it helps that there's some hot tub action right afterward to warm people up too.
Absolutely. We're going to have a hot tub provided by Pioneer Family Pools, which is one of the sponsors and supporters of the event. So all the participants, after jumping in the water, can really, enjoy sometimes in the hot tub and, get ready to enjoy the rest of the day after that.
It's not that bad at all. It's going to be a lot of fun. How can people get involved if they want to do it?
Well, a great question. I think you can really support in different ways. You can register and take the plunge and be one of the individuals, participating in the event. You can really donate as well. You can join the fun and as a spectator, you can cheer on the plungers and enjoy a lively atmosphere at Friday Harbor. As much as we're really jumping in the waters of Lake Simcoe, we want everyone to really there to enjoy their time. And, after Take the Plunge, spectators can enjoy, at the event, spectators can enjoy warm beverage and we're going to have delicious bites on offer. But then also after the event, participants can visit Skate Escape, which is really our outdoor skating rink on the promenade. They can really visit the retailers on the promenade as well. I know they'll be thrilled to really be welcoming there. So it's not only about Take the Plunge, it's about the experience and the time that you can really spend while at Friday Harbor. And there's always something happening at Friday Harbor, so we look forward to welcoming everyone.
We're taking the plunge next Saturday, March the 8th at Friday Harbor. CEO Henny Roostem, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. We'll see you there.
Final weeks of the OHL season upon us. Barrie Colts have punched their ticket to the playoffs. It's now a matter of jockeying for the best playoff position. Here again is Will Conkin with Colts writer and broadcaster Gene Pereira.
Gene, another week on the ice. The Colts held on in a shootout 5-4 against the Guelph Storm and then got by the Saginaw Spirit in overtime 5-4. Must have been some good luck from the Kyle Clifford jersey retirement before the game, and then a 6-3 win over the Kingston Frontenac Saturday. Gene, goaltender Ben Hrebeck had a good outing against the Guelph Storm, while Anthony Romani and Cole Bodwin scored in the shootout. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that was a game that I think Ben Hrebeck was, the obvious difference in that one. Maybe a game where Barrie didn't play as well, and they managed to come alive in that third period to get the lead, but Guelph ties it with just 5 seconds remaining, and that forces an overtime in a shootout. But Ben was just outstanding in that one, and he's clearly the difference in making the point in that one. But then obviously, they were able to go into Saginaw against Saginaw back at home. And, it was a big night. Kyle Clifford's jersey retirement. I thought the team did a real nice job of paying tribute to the former power forward, and it was good to see a big crowd on hand. And Kyle, talking to him, I mean, he was really taken back by it. And, one of those big physical tough guys, but a big heart and, well-deserving of that honor. And Barrie followed that up with an outstanding win over Saginaw. I mean, that Saginaw team's really good. I mean, they obviously, made some trades at the deadline to look for the future, but, Michael Misa, Zach Perea, just really some elite forwards there. That forward group is just really impressive, and Keyshawn Aitchison again pulls out another big overtime winner and a big win for Barrie at home as well.
Yeah, in one of your articles, you actually linked Keyshawn Aitchison and Kyle Clifford. What do you see in those two?
Yeah, I think you look at them and they're similar. They're kind of big physical guys, but, Kyle as well, he was a prototypical power forward in junior hockey, and, as well as that physical presence, in the junior level, he could really put the puck in the net, and I think you started to see that. I mean, he went to the NHL early. Had he stayed, I think he definitely would have been a 35-40 guy. He got 28 goals his final year. And Aitchison as well. I mean, we've seen that physical. I don't think there's any doubt that he's the best open ice hitter in the Ontario Hockey League today. He's a physical, punishing defenseman. But, 22 goals this year, just one off the record for defensemen, franchise record for defensemen. Now with Brent Clark, Aaron Ekblad, and Andrew Marshall. So, he shows that offensive side as well. And I think, two guys kind of known for their physical presence, but showing as well that they can provide and chip in offensively. And I think, they're similar in that way. And, Keyshawn talked about how, it's just really inspiring, watching that jersey go up for Kyle Clifford. And, for a young player who's on the horizon here with the NHL draft coming up, and it was an inspiration for him.
And Gene, what a wild few minutes in the Frontenac's game. Riley Patterson sparked a 3-goal outburst, as you called it. Break that down for us.
Yeah, I mean, so much at stake. I mean, these teams are just battling. We're down to 9 games left in the season, and you got like a couple of points separating 4 teams, and home ice advantage is going to mean so much. And it was a game that you expected. 2 really good teams going at it, tight-knit, and Riley Patterson with a huge short-handed goal on a 2-on-1 with Bo Gelsma keeps it, picks the corner, and talking to Riley, he said all along he knew he was going to kind of keep it. He looked up, spotted the defenseman kind of cheating over to Gelsma, so he knew he was going to have to shoot. He picked the far side, and it was a really nice goal, nice play, and it sparked that outburst. Barrie followed with 2 quick goals, and it was a big win for them. And again, this is a team that's come up real big late, and that's something. Obviously, that's a good sign that a team is able to find a way to win in these tight hockey games. And obviously, when you look at standing-wise, the head-to-head games against these other top teams, they can make the difference at the end of the year. And Barrie's still looking to get home ice, top spot in the conference. 3 points behind Brantford with a game in hand, but Kingston and Oshawa right there as well. So it's going to be a battle right to the final weekend of the season.
A couple of Colts could be coming back in the mix soon too. Dallin Wakely and Tristan Bertucci. What do you have on those two?
Yeah, some good signs. Obviously, Tristan Bertucci has been out for quite a while with mono, and I understand that he was going to visit the doctor this week to see if his spleen had come down to size back to regular size, and if he is, he's been on the ice, but in a non-contact way. So the hopes are is that he can get clearance to return to that, and maybe hopes that at earliest he's back next weekend. But again, the hope there is that he gets cleared, and a good sign. We've seen him at the rink lately and around the team and on the ice. So positive there. And for Wakely, obviously finishing up his 5-game suspension there, and that's going to be a big return. Those are two big-time players, key players for Barrie, and as you head into these final games of the season, they're going to provide a big boost for the lineup.
This week for the Colts, Thursday, Saginaw Spirit again, Sioux Greyhounds on Friday, Sudbury Wolves Sunday, and the Niagara Ice Dogs Tuesday. Gene, that's a tough bit for the guys. Other than winning, what do they need to focus on scheme-wise?
Yeah, I think they got to get back, and I think we saw that a bit, lately, a little bit better. Back to defense. This team really is a defense-first team. They're one of the top teams with the fewest goals against in the Eastern Conference, and they got outstanding goaltending, obviously, but it's from a team. Obviously, the blue line is strong, but the forward group as well. And when they focus on that defensive style, they're really good at kind of strangling the team's opportunities. They really give up few opportunities when they're focused like that, and if they get back to playing that game, they're going to be a tough team to beat.
Appreciate the insight as always, Gene. Till the next one.
Thanks, Will.
And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Ian, Will, and Rock 95's Macaulay for their input, to Matt Ladder for his technical touch, and to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About, rate it, review it. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on Blue Sky and X at Barrie360, on our website, Barrie360.com, and there's our daily Kickstart podcasts available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.